Hi, welcome to this on Maths prediction for the AQA Maths GCSE Paper 2, which is Calculator Foundation Tier exam. Enjoy! Hi, I'm Chris Gilpin, and I hope that Paper 1 went well. From what people are messaging me, it seems that it went okay. But a lot of you are looking to revise for Paper 2 and 3. Now remember, Paper 2 and 3 are not really that different to each other. It's basically a 3-hour paper split into two. So when you revise for Paper 2 and 3, as long as you've got a calculator in your hand, you're good to go. Don't forget that all of the stuff that we're going to see in this video you can do on the site, completely free. If you go to onmaths.com, I'm sure there's a link coming up there now. And on the site also there's topic busters. In fact, we're finding that on the site many people are now going to the topic areas and revising specific topics, which is fantastic. Like I always say, don't rely on this prediction as an absolute this is what will come up. It never works that way. What this prediction does is it first of all gives you some practice of GCSE style questions. It also, I've removed all the stuff that's come up in Paper 1 so that you can practice the topics that are more likely to come up. Especially ratio and proportion. Don't think because ratios or proportion questions come up that it can't come up again. All the exam boards have shown that they have repeated some topics. Probability is a good example as well, because probability has loads and loads of different types of question, and although probability may have come up in Paper 1, it doesn't mean it can't come up in Paper 2 and 3. So the safest bet is first of all focus on the calculator questions, because it's unlikely there's going to be ones that require not a calculator but you've got a calculator in your hand. They're not going to come around and take the calculator off you. These are now both calculator questions. So during this half term and during up until the exams, have your calculator in your hand. That's your best friend now. You don't need to worry about the non-calculator questions. Other than that, revise everything. If you go to our site, there's loads and loads more stuff. We're adding more stuff all the time. Such as demon questions, the revisionator, etc, etc. We're making a few changes to the site, so please just have a look on the front page and just see what's going on. And I hope you enjoy this video. Thank you very much. So in this question we're given a train timetable, and we've got 4 towns. We've got Ashcook, Flute, Risetown and Colip, and the bus is obviously starting at Ashcook and then finishing at Colip, passing through these towns as it goes. So it says that we arrive at 2017 at Ashcook. Now we will have missed this train and we'll have missed this train, but we'll be in time for this train. So we'll take the 2032 train. Now that will stop at Flute at 2052, but we're looking to see how quick we can get to Risetown, which is the next stop there. We'll get to Risetown 21:24. When we're asked to write a number in figures, it just means as numbers. So we've got 5026. We need a 0 there as a placeholder. So you're just going to write 5026, 5026. Next question says, write down the value of 8. Now, if we remember, and let's just write the number a little bit bigger, this is our units column, this is our tenths column, and this is our hundredths column. So the value of the 8 is 8 hundredths. We can write that as a fraction, 8 hundredths. And that's the answer. Question C, write down 655 correct to the nearest 10. Okay, so 655, if we just do a quick number line, 655, the next 10 up is 660, and the next one down is 650. So those are the two it can round to. This 655 is bang on halfway, and if they are halfway, they round upwards. So the answer is 660. If I draw that properly. If it was any less, if it was 654, it would round down. So if the last number, if that number there is 5 or more, it will round up. So this question asks us to write the smallest odd number. Now there's two instructions there. We need to make the smallest number from the digits, and it needs to be odd. So to make the smallest number, we want to use the smallest digits on the left hand side of the number and the largest digits on the right hand side of the number. Okay. We also need the last number to be odd. Now to make a number odd, the last number needs to be 1, 3, 5, 7 or 9. Okay, so looking at the largest numbers, the largest number is 6, so we want to end on a 6. However, 6 is an even number, therefore if we end on a 6, it will be an even number. So we've got to look at the largest odd number, which is the 5. So the 5 is going to go here to make the number odd. Then we need to use up that 6 next. And then the next largest number is the 4, and then 3. So my answer is 3,465. Now always just check to see whether we've answered the question. It says it wants the smallest odd number. Well, that's an odd number, and I can't think of a way of swapping those digits to make it any smaller, because we've used the smallest numbers we can on the left hand side and the biggest on the right hand side. So for this question, you just kind of got to imagine what the shape will look like when it's finished. And the thing that's stopping it from looking perfect is not having this square here. And let's just check it has 4 lines of symmetry when I put that in. So we've got one there, we've got one across here, then we have a diagonal one here, and then we've got another diagonal one here. So it has 4 lines of symmetry. For this question, we need to understand the difference between multiples and factors. Multiples are just a numbers times table. So the multiples of 5 will be 5, 10, 15, 20, etc, etc. Now every number in the 5 times table ends in 0 or 5. So looking at the list of numbers we've got here, there's only one that ends in a 5 or a 0, which is 10. So 10 is a multiple of 5. Now factors go the other way. A factor of a number means that the number, so 24, is in another numbers times table. So 24, and the easiest way to find the factors of 24 is you start off with 1 and 24, because 1 times 24 is 24. Then you go 2 times, 12, 3 times 8, 4 times, and you think how many 4s? 6. 5 times, well that doesn't work. 6 times we've already got. So those 8 numbers are the factors of 24. Then I look at the list, well, already there's a 24 there. Is there any other ones I could have written? I don't see any other ones, so 24 is my answer there. 2 prime numbers. Now prime numbers mean they only have 2 factors, 1 and themselves. Okay, that's a prime number. If there's any more factors, it's not a prime number. So let's go through the list. 10 is in the 5 times table, which we identified in question A, so that's not a prime number. 24, well, we've listed out 6 other factors of 24, so that's not in it. 18 is 3 times 6, so that's not going to be it. 17, I don't think of any times tables that 17 is in, so I'm going to say 17 is a prime number, which it is. And 19, well, I can't think of any times tables 19 is in, so I think that's a prime number. Let's go through the rest to make sure. So 16 is 2 and 8, so that's not a prime number. And any even number apart from 2 is not going to be a prime number. 2 is the only even prime number. 27 looks like it might be, but actually 3 times 9 is 27, so it's definitely not. And 28 is another even number. So it looks like we found the 2 prime numbers. Okay, so for this question we're asked to construct a pie chart from the table. We've got a number of frequencies. Now the first thing to do is work out how many frequencies we've got in total. So first calculation I'll make is adding up all the frequencies, and that calculator tells me is 24. Okay, now the problem we have is a circle has to add up to 360. And at the moment, all of our frequencies add up to 24. So we've got to find out what we're going to multiply all these frequencies by to get them to add up to 360. We do that really simply by doing the calculation 360 divided by whatever the total of the frequencies are. So 360 divided by 24 on the calculator equals 15. So this 15 here, if we multiply all three of our numbers by 15, we will get the amount of degrees we need each colour to be. So I'm going to add an extra column here and say angle. And I'm going to do 14 times 15. And it's 210 degrees. 7 times 15 is 105 degrees. And 3 times 15 is 45 degrees. Now let's just check this. Let's add them up. 210 plus 105 plus 45 equals 360. And then you need to plot it onto the pie chart. Now, I don't have a protractor on this, so I can't physically do it. And to be honest, it's much more helpful to physically print this out, do it on a piece of paper, and get someone to help you use the protractor if you're not 100% sure. That 210, for instance, what I would do is probably draw a straight line down here, like a mini sort of working out line, and do 210 take away 180, which is 30, and do sort of 30 extra degrees, which is going to roughly be there. And don't forget to label them, so that would be red. 105 is just over 90, and I'm just doing this roughly. I'm not even going to use a straight line to show that it's not accurate, and then label that blue, and then check that you've got 45 left over, and hopefully you do, and then label that other. So for the first question, when you're adding letters together, the answer will be a number and then that letter. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be 5b. The most common wrong answer is b to the power of 5. Now that's wrong because that only happens when you times them together, when you multiply them together. So it's going to be 5b for the first one. Next one is 10 lots of f, and we're taking away 3 lots of the f. Well, how many f have we got left over? Well, 10 lots of it and take away 3 lots of it means we've got 7 lots of it left. When you're simplifying one like this, in algebra we just don't use the time sign, so this is quite a nice easy question, 10ab. Now the last one is like terms, so we've got 5x here, and we're adding 5x. And we've got a 3y here, and we're taking away a y. So when you add the 5x to the 5x, you get 10x. And when you've got 3y and you're taking away y, which is short for 1y, so we've got 3 y's, taking away 1y, we're left with 2y. Now you can't simplify that any further because they are not like terms. You can times them, but you can't add or subtract them. Okay, so we're asked to round to 3 significant figures. So what I'd try and do first is write the number down. Now, with significant figures, we start counting at the start of the number. We don't start counting at the decimal point. So I'm going to start counting here. And I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to draw a line down. Now, all the numbers to the right of that line are going to reset to 0. But before they do, we need to look at this number, and this is called our decider number. If that number that I've circled in blue is 5 or more, it means the 7 goes up to 8. If it's less than 5, the 7 stays the same. Now because it is 5, that 7 will go to an 8. Now be careful here, the numbers to the right don't disappear, and some students, when they've done decimal places, they think they just go away. With significant figures, you have to remember that they turn to 0. Now they do the same with decimal places, it's just because they're after the decimal point, we don't need them anymore. But these 3 zeros here are what we call placeholders. So, for instance, if you're asked to estimate the size of a crowd, and there was 207,518 people, you wouldn't say that that was roughly 208 people. You would say that's roughly 208,000 people. Alright, so we're asked to find 8.9% of 457. So first of all, I'm just going to convert 8.9% into a decimal. So this is it as a percentage, and as a decimal, I'm just going to divide it by 100, and you always do that to percentages to find decimals. So 8.9 divided by 100, and that gives me 0.089. And all I need to do is get my quantity and times it by that decimal. So I'm going to times that by 457 equals, and it says 40.673, and it wants it to 2 decimal places, so that's going to be 40.67. Okay, so key formula for this one is average speed is total distance over total time. And if you know that, then this question becomes a lot easier. The total distance is the 90 plus the 63. The total time is the 5 plus the 4. So that would be 153 over 9, which is 153 divided by 9, which is 17 kilometers per hour. Okay, so we're asked to work out the area of the triangle, and the area of a triangle is the base, which is 5 centimeters, times the height, which is 3. Now that 3 is the height because it hits the base at 90 degrees, but then you halve it. Okay, so the area is half of the base times the height, and that's the bit students often forget, that halving business. So it's going to be half of 5 times 3, which is half of 15, and half of 15 is 7.5, so it would be 7.5 centimeters squared, because it's an area, and area is always squared, so it's always the unit squared. The actual number's not squared, but the units are centimeters squared. Okay, so there's a couple of ways to draw this graph onto this grid. First of all, we could use the y-intercept method, where you plot this on the y-intercept and then you use the gradient, so go across 1 and down 2, then across right 1, another down 2, or you could just find values. So what is it, minus 2x plus 8, so we've got 3 values there. So it's minus 2x plus 8, and we're going to do minus 2 first. So y equals minus 2 times minus 2 plus 8. Now 2 negatives times together is a positive, so that's 4 plus 8, which equals 12. Then we're going to do it for this one. So y equals minus 2 times 0 plus 8, or minus 2 times 0, anything times 0 is 0, so it's going to be 0 plus 8, so that's just going to be 8. And then we've got the last one, so y equals minus 2 times 2, and then plus 8. Now negative times positive is a negative, 2 times 2 is 4, and so that's going to be 4. So we've got 3 points here, and whenever we have 3 points we can just plot them. So minus 2 is at 12, so we can plot that. 0 at 8, so we plot it, and 2 and 4. And hopefully if we've done this right, it should make a straight line. So let's see if I can get this done right. Oh, click the wrong one. And there we go. And you always make sure that the line is for the duration of the graph, and make sure you label it. So that's y equals minus 2x plus 8. With two-way tables, we've got to use the totals to work out the missing numbers. So a nice place to start is this box here. If we have a look, we've got a total of 46 people with brown eyes. 23 of them are female. So all you need to do is 46 and take away the 23, and that leaves 23 left over. Now let's have a look at a nice easy one. Right, green eyes, that's a nice easy one there. We've got 48 in total, and 27 females with green eyes. So we want to do 48, take away 27, and that leaves us with 21. Now if we have a look at this one, we have 23 females 23 males with brown eyes, 18 males with blue eyes, and 21 males with green eyes. And we assume that there weren't any others because they're not in the table. So we add those together, and that gives us 62 in total. And let's have a look at this one maybe. So we've got 62 females altogether, and we've got 27 of them have green eyes, and 23 of them have brown eyes. So we take the 23 and the 27 away from 62, and that leaves us with 12. And we can just check that. We can do 23 plus 12 plus 27, and it equals 62. So we know that's right. With that one sorted, we can get this one. And if there's 18 males with blue eyes and 12 females with blue eyes, that means there's going to be 30 altogether. Now this total is either the total of these ones or the total of these ones, and they should give you the same number. Don't add the blue and the green ones together, so it's only one of them. So 46 plus 30 plus 48 is 124. And let's just check that. 62 plus 62 is also 124. So don't ever write down 248 because that's not correct. So in total there are 124 people whose eye colour were checked. When you're asked to describe the relationship between two things on a scatter graph, the sentence you need to write is, as this one increases, this one either increases or decreases. So as time of day increases, test marks, and because they're going up, it's a positive correlation, test marks increase. So there's a difference between describing the type of correlation or writing the type of correlation and describing the relationship. When you're describing the relationship, it's just as the one at the bottom increases, the one up the side either increases or decreases. So it says, using the scatter graph, the examination centre then concluded that time of day leads to positive effect on test scores. Are they correct to make this conclusion? Basically, this is a question about the fact that just because two things correlate does not mean that one causes the other. So a sentence like, there may be other factors such as, I don't know, what else? Tiredness, fatigue, tiredness. So try and make sure you give an example as well to support your argument. Okay, the first thing to realise with this question is it's a Pythagoras question. We've got a right angle triangle and we're looking for the third side, given two sides. Now, the next thing to do is label the sides. So the one opposite the right angle we always label as C. The other two, it doesn't matter, I'll label this A and this B. The formula for Pythagoras is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And we've got a squared, which is 6.3. we've got A. We don't have B, but we have C. So let's work that out. I get my calculator. 6.3 squared is 39.69, and 11 squared is 121. So if I put my lines in, I can take away 39.69 from both sides. So b squared equals, so 121 take away 39.69 is 81.31. And then I'm going to square root both sides, extend my lines a little bit. So I'm going to square root that answer. So b equals 9.0172, blah, blah, blah. Once it's two decimal places, so 9.02 will be the answer. Last thing, just to check it, the hypotenuse, which is this one, needs to be the longest side. So our answer was 9.02, and so that is smaller. So chances are it's correct. Okay, to answer this question, you do need a pair of compasses, and I can't use my compass on this, otherwise it will break my monitor. However, I'm going to try my best to replicate it so that with a pair of compasses you'll be able to do this. So we're asked to draw a bisector of the angle ABC, which just means a straight line that is always the same distance away from AB as it is from BC. And there's just one way of doing this. So the first thing we need to do is put our compass at B, so put the point at B, and draw an arc about halfway between A and B. It doesn't matter, but about halfway always suits me. Something like that, and to go all the way to BC. Now from that arc you want to draw another arc, and normally use the same distance from where that line the arc you've just drawn hit line AB. So here, this point here. So we want to put our compass point there and draw another arc over here. Now we're going to do the same thing, but this time from where that arc hit line BC. And keep the distance the same, that's the important thing. So I'm going to keep the distance the same. I'm going to draw my arc there. And then finally, all I need to do is draw my line. And let's pick a colour, I'm going to pick purple to finish this off. Draw my line from where the angle is at B through where those two arcs intersected. Now, if you did this perfectly, actually mine doesn't look too bad, but if you did this perfectly, the line will be kind of the halfway point between line AB and BC. Now the examiners are looking for the three arcs that I've shown. So the red one here, the purple one here, and the blue one here, as well as that line that I've shown. So don't rub anything out. Okay, so the way we solve these is the same as if it was an equation. Put our lines down the side here. So first of all, I'm going to just expand these brackets. So we've got 12x minus, 60 plus 24, so it'll be 84, is less than 2x minus 44. Now, whenever you've got x on both sides, you choose the side with the smaller amount of x's, which is this one, and take it away. So minus 2x from both sides. So it'd be 10x minus 84 is less than minus 44. Then we're going to add 84 both sides. So we're going to have 10x is less than, so it will be 40. And then we're going to divide both sides by 10. So x is less than 4. Now be really careful not to have an equal sign anywhere there. There's no equal sign. X is less than 4, it's not equal to 4. So just always check back to the question and your answer and check that the signs are appropriate. Okay, to start off, when you're working out the nth term, you've got to work out what the sequence is going up in. Now this is a bit weird, this one, because it's going down, but we've still got to work out what it's going up in, so it goes up by -3 each time, and you always check that it continues, which it does. This number then goes before the letter n, so it's minus 3n. The next step is you go backwards 1 and find out what the 0th term is. So the 0th term here is going to be 20, because 20 take away 3 is 17. And this we add on to the end here. So it's minus 3n plus 20. And always check it. So for the first one, n is 1. So minus 3 times 1 is minus 3. Plus 20 is 17. For the fifth term, minus 3 times 5 is minus 15. Minus 15 plus 20 is 5, which is our fifth term. Now, a lot of people look at the word estimate and think, oh, let's just take a guess at it. The reason we're estimating is because of the first step that we have to do to answer this question. It doesn't mean that just have a quick punt and guess at it. With this question, you won't be able to guess it correctly, or it'd be very, very unlikely. So we approach this the same as if it wasn't a group. However, we do have a group, so we've got to do a step first. This means that we've got a value somewhere between 0 and 4, including 4 but not including 0. Now the problem is that the first step in this method is to multiply these two numbers together, but you can't times somewhere between 0 and 4 by 14. So what we need to do first is find the midpoint. The reason we pick the midpoint is it's a good number to use to represent that group. If we assumed all those numbers were 0, then it would probably be ridiculously small. If we assume they were all 4, again it would be too high. So we assume that all those are 2 because it's right in the middle of the group, and chances are that most of them are closer to 2 than 0 or 4. So we find the midpoint of each of the groups, and a way of doing this is just adding the lowest and highest value together and dividing it by 2. Or just having a look. 4 to 8 will be 6, 8 to 12 halfway would be 10, 12 to 16 halfway would be 14, and 16 to 20 halfway would be 18. Then what we do is we get the frequencies and times them by the midpoints. So it's the same as if it wasn't a group now. So we do 14 times 2, which is 28, 6 times 6 is 36, 3 times 10 is 30, and then you can use a calculator for this, so 9 times 14, have an idea of what it's going to be. Hopefully it's 126, which it is, good, and 2 times 18, which is 36. And this is I call this the fx, although in this case we are calling the first one s, so it's the fs column. And then we need to find the sum of the fs column. So we're going to add up 28, 36, 30, 126 and 36 on the calculator, which is 256. And then we're going to sum up the frequencies, which is this column here. So 14 plus 6 plus 3 plus 9 plus 2, which is 34. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get the 256, which is all our values added together, and divide it by 34. So 256 divided by 34. And I get the answer of 7.5294 blah blah blah. And to 2 decimal places, that's going to be 7.53. Now, the reason it's an estimate, as I've said before, is that we don't know that all the values in the first group are 2. We are estimating them to all be 2, even though we know that some of them will be 1, some of them will be 3. But chances are it will balance out that it's roughly going to be about 2 in that group, and 6 in the next group, and 10 in the group after. That's where the word estimate comes. The method for doing this is how I've shown it here. I don't believe there's any other methods you can use for this. Okay, so we're given the density and we're asked for the mass, and we can work out the volume. So the first thing I'm going to do is just draw my triangle, and it's density, mass at the top, volume at the bottom. So to work out mass, I'm going to do density times the volume. Okay, so we go, first of all, have to work out the volume. And of a cuboid, it's just timesing all the dimensions together, so 33 times 22 times 7. So 33 times 22 times 7 on the calculator, and I get 5,082. And so to work out density, to work out mass even, we're going to do volume, density times volume. So density is 2.1. Let's just check the units, grams per centimeters cubed, so that works. 2.1 times 5,082. So 2.1 times 5,082, and I get 10,672.2. Now check out the unit of mass in the density. It's grams per centimeters cubed. So that's going to be grams. Now be careful because the answer is wanted in kilograms. So I'm going to divide that by 1,000 to get it in kilograms. And it says to 2 decimal places. So it's going to be 10.67. Okay, so this question is a little bit more complicated than it first seems. So we've got Adrian, Ben, and Charlie, and they share some sweets in the ratio of 6 to 3 to 8. And it says that Charlie got 12 more sweets than Adrian. Well, first of all, let's have a look and see how many more parts that Charlie... always cross my L's for some reason. Charlie got more than Adrian. Okay, so he got 8 take away 6 is 2. So he got 2 more parts. And so let's have a look and see what 1 part is worth. So those 2 parts equates to 12 more sweets. So we do 12 divided by 2, 6. So each part is worth 6 sweets. And it says work out the total amount of sweets. So we need to work out how many parts there are in total. So we do 6 plus 3 plus 8. Now I know 6 plus 8 is 14, plus 3 is 17. So we've got 17 parts in total. Each of them is worth 6 sweets. So to work out the amount of sweets, we do 17 times 6. Now we could do 7 times 6, which is 42, 10 times 6, which is 60. So add the 2 together, it's 102. So there are 102 sweets altogether. Okay, so we're asked to write 88 as a product of its prime factors. So the first thing to do is write 88, and then we have 2 shoots coming from it. Now I need to find out which 2 numbers times together to make 88. Now a little tip, if you've got an even number, always pick 2. So 2 times 44. Now whenever we get to a prime number, we always circle it, because that's finished. So 44. Get another 2 out of that, we'll divide another 2 out of that, so 2 and 22, 2 and 11. Now 11 is also a prime number, and when you're left with just prime numbers, then you write your answer out like this. Now if you're also asked to write it in index form, that means instead of 2 times 2 times 2, you're going to write 2 to the power of 3 times 11. Now don't work that out because that will give you 88. So 2 cubed times 11 is 88. Okay, so this question's about exchange rates, and this part here is quite important. If I just rewrite that to make it a bit bigger, this is basically saying that to get from pounds to dollars, we just need to times by 1.42. And you can get that by just dividing the right hand side by the left hand side. Now 1.42 divided by 1 is just 1.42. So the problem with this question though is that it wants the answer in pounds, so we'll need to convert both of these things into pounds. So we're actually going the other way. And when we go the other way, instead of times we just divide. So we're dividing both sides, or we're dividing dollars by 1.42 to get to pounds. So we've got $3,000 and we want to convert it into pounds. So we're going to divide it by 1.42, and I'm just going to type that into my calculator. So 3,000 divided by 1.42, and it's to the nearest pound 2112.6, and we'll round to 8. Obviously to 2 decimal places, because money is always to 2 decimal places. So it says also that that the laptop costs £2,500 in the UK, and how much cheaper is the laptop in the USA than the UK. So what we need to do now is we need to do £2,500, which is the price of the laptop in the UK. We're going to take away the £1,112.68. And on my calculator, I'm just going to type in 2,500 take away answer, and then press equals, and it gives me the answer of 387.32. So it's £387.32 cheaper. Okay, so we're asked for the single transformation that maps shape A onto B. So I'm starting A, going to B. And I first of all got to figure out which transformation I'm looking at. Well, it's not an enlargement because it hasn't grown or shrunk. It's the same size. It's not a rotation or reflection because it's kind of the same way around. It's exactly the same shape. All that's happened is it's moved, and that means it's going to be a translation. So I'm going to say translation. Okay, now we need to figure out what the translation is. Now, always pick the same point on both shapes. I always pick the top left one. Okay, just make sure it's the same. It doesn't matter which one you pick. So I'm going to pick the top left one on both shapes. Now I'm going to start at A and I'm going to try to get to B by using jumps. So I'm going to start off going right first. So 1, 2, 3. I'm in line with B now. And then I'm going to go down. So 1, 2, 3, 4 down. So I've gone 3 right and 4 down. And the reason we do the jumps is if you do them in the exam, you'll always get the right answer. The most common mistake with this is people counting lines, and if you have a look here, there's technically 4 lines here and people write down 4. It's not, it's 3. 3 is going to be the answer for this. So we've gone 3 right and 4 down, and the way we show this is with a little vector. The top one, and I'll put these as notes over here, the top one shows how far right you've gone, the bottom one how far up you've gone. Well, we've said we've gone 3 right, so that's nice and easy, so 3. But here we've gone 4 down, and the bottom one always shows how far up we've gone. So we've gone -4 up, otherwise 4 down. So if the top one is left, then it will be a negative number. If the bottom one is down, then it will be a negative number. Okay, so we're asked to enlarge this shape by scale factor 2, centre of enlargement at 4 minus 3, and then we've got asked to label it B. Okay, now we have the centre of enlargement shown for us, but sometimes you won't be, so that might be the first thing you do, is just write down, put a little cross where the centre of enlargement is. And to do this, there are 2 ways of doing this. There's a way where you draw the ray lines on. So you would draw the lines on like so, and that's absolutely valid technique. Okay, you draw all the ray lines on. So what I'm doing is joining up the centre of enlargement with each of the 3 points on the shape and just carrying the line on, and that's absolutely fine. I do it a slightly different way. What I need to do is find out how to get from the centre of enlargement to each of those points. So I'm going to start at the centre of enlargement, go to the bottom left on the shape. Okay, so I'm going to jump 1, 2 to the left and 1 up. And if it's scale factor 2, I've just got to do that one more time. So 1, 2, and then 1 up. So it's going to be there. I'm going to do that with the other 2 points. So 1 to the right, 1 up to get to this point. So I'm going to go 1 to the right, 1 up to go to the enlarged point. And finally, I'm going to do it one more time to get that top left one. So 1, 2 jumps to the right, 1, 2, 3 up. So 1, 2 to the left, and 1, 2, 3 up. Okay, and then I'm going to join it up to get my new shape. Join up all 3 points. And it says label it B. Now, I always find this much easier to do by looking at how far left, how far up do I have to go. Now, if the scale factor is 3, I would do it once, do it again to get scale factor 2, and then do it a third time. So for this green one, I would go another 2 to the right and another 1 up if it was scale factor 3, which it's not in this question, so I'll get rid of that. And it's that simple, and we can just make sure that it's correct by looking at how far, what the width and height of that shape were. It was 1 and 2, and they are now 2 and 4, so we know it's probably correct. For these types of questions, always make sure that you show your working, show how you know something is something. So the way I would start this, and this is not the only correct answer, is I realise that these two are the same. So I know that 2y minus 50 equals 52. The reason I know that is that they are corresponding angles. Now, some of you might know that as F angles, but make sure you write the word corresponding because they won't accept any other word. So I can solve this by first of all adding 50 to both sides. So that's 2y equals 102, and then I'm going to halve both sides. So y equals 51. So I know y is 51, so I now know that this angle here is 51 degrees. Now I know that this is 52 degrees because if you look at this, I'll use a different colour, this angle here and this angle here are Z angles or alternate angles, or you can say that this 52 degrees here is equal to this here, which is also 52, because they're vertically opposite angles. So I know that this one here, and I could call it a letter on the diagram, so I could say C. I don't think there's another C, so C equals 52, and show the examiner, right, that's because, well, let's go for alternate angles with the original value. Okay, so we've got three sides, or three angles in a triangle. I've got way too many colours going on here. So to work out x, so x equals, it's going to be 180 minus 51 plus 52. So work out what 51 plus 52 is, and then take away from 180. And the reason is angles in triangle. Okay, so I know that 51 plus 52 is going to be 103, and therefore that's going to be 77 degrees. So my answer is 77 degrees. Okay, so to do this question, I'm going to start off with a number line, and I'm going to put the number given to us in the question in the middle, so 89.6. Now it says it's the nearest tenth of a second, so what I want to do on the left hand side is put the next number down. So what could it have rounded to if it was slightly less? Well, the next one down would have been 89.5, and the next one up on the other side would have been 89.7. Now to find the bounds, we just find the halfway points, and this left hand one will be the lower bound, the right hand one will be the upper bound. So that's going to be 89.55 and 89.65. Now it says it wants it as an error interval and use t for the time. So we put t in the middle, then we put the greater than sign on the left hand side, and then just the normal inequality on the right hand side. Now these two signs here will always be the same. Okay, so when you're asked to do an error interval, it's that way around. So we're going to do our 89.55 on the left hand side and 89.65 on the right hand side. Now the reason why the inequality has an equals underneath it on the left hand side is it can be 89.55 and still round to 89.6. The reason it doesn't have one on the right hand side is 89.65 would have rounded to 89.7. So if you just remember, the things in the blue circles are always that way, and the letter it asks you for, just put in the middle. If it doesn't ask you for a letter, you can just pick any letter you want. You can call it X or something. And then the lower bound is on the left hand side and the upper bound is on the right hand side, and the lower bound's always here and the upper bound's always here. So this question looks quite complicated at first, but actually there are two very simple-ish ways of doing it. We've got two decagons, and so that means they are 10-sided, and you can just count the sides if you want, but if it says it's a decagon, I trust it, it's a decagon. Now what we can do is we could work out the interior angles of the decagons. Well, they'll be the same, so I can just work out one and then double it, and then take that away from 360 to work out A. And that's absolutely fine, that'll get you the right answer. A quicker way maybe, and especially on the non-calculator paper, but it works on both papers, is to draw a line up here and realise that you've got two exterior angles there. And the beauty of exterior angles for polygons is they always add up to 360. So to work out the exterior angle, always write down what you're working out. All you need to do is 360 divided by the number of sides the regular polygon has, and they have to be regular, otherwise you can't just divide them because we're assuming they're the same. So that's 36. So if that one's 36 degrees there, and that one's 36 degrees there, then all you need to do is 36 times 2. Well, 6 times 2 is 12, 30 times 2 is 6, so that's going to be 72. So let's show the examiner that. 36 times 2 equals 72 degrees. Okay, so there's quite a few different ways you can do this question. I'm going to find out length CB, and then I'm going to, from that, find out length CE. So this question asks us for length CE. Now CE is the length that's shown at the bottom here. This is CE here. Okay, so that's the one we're trying to find. Now I'm going to first of all find out what CB is. Now what I'm going to do is just label this X, and I realise that it needs to be trigonometry because this is a rectangle, that's a right angle, so I'll need to use trigonometry for it. So we've got opposite and we've got the hypotenuse. So we're going to use sine, so SOH. So it's going to be sine 68 equals 27 over x. And I'm going to times both sides by x and divide both sides by sine 68. So that gives me x equals 27 over sine 68. And so if I do that on the calculator, 27 over sine 68, and that gives me 29.1204. And I just do a few more decimal places than usual because it's not an answer and you should never round your working out. If it's asking for one decimal place, I think 4 decimal places should be enough, but I'm going to try and keep it into the calculator if I can. So the next thing I need to do is work out CE. Now I'll need this angle here, which actually I can just take away 68 from 90 because it's a rectangle, the whole thing will be 90 degrees. So I'm just doing 90 take away 68, which is 22. So that's 22 degrees. Now I'm looking for this one, so CE. I'm going to call CE Y. And I've got, so what have I got? I've got the adjacent here. So this is now the adjacent. And I've got the hypotenuse because this is opposite the right angle. So this time I'm going to be using cos. So it's CAH. So cos 22 equals equals my 29.1204 blah 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 over y. So again, I'm going to times both sides by y and divide both sides by cos 22. So y equals 29.1204 blah 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 over cos 22. Now I kept that in my calculator, so I can just press divided by cos 22. Press equals, and it's 31.4074 blah blah blah. And it says it wants the answer to one decimal place, so it's going to be 31.4. Now, if I lost you a little bit because I went quite quickly through trigonometry, this is a kind of question you do when you're quite happy with trigonometry. There's loads and loads of videos on the site that go through right from the basics of trigonometry. If you want to do these questions completely within the trigonometry triangle, then that's absolutely fine. You'll get the same answer. In this question we're asked to compare two banks, and normally when I'm asked to compare something I just put a line down the middle of the working out, and I put one of them on the left hand side and one of them on the right hand side, and as long as it's identifiable which one is on the left and which one's on the right, you don't need to necessarily put the whole name down, but you can do. So I'm going to start with a super bank. It says we have 2.3% for the first year and 1.8% for all other years, and we're doing this for 2 years at £300. So first of all I want to work out what the multiplier is. Since this is the calculator paper, we use the multiplier method. So we start off with 100% always, and compound interest means we're gaining money, so we're going to go up by 2.3%, so that means we'll have 102.3%. So as a multiplier, what we do is we just divide that percentage by 100 to get it as a decimal into what we call a multiplier, 1.023. So if I times 300 by that, that will tell me what we have after year 1. So let's do that on a calculator. 300 times 1.023. And you might need to press S to D. And that is £306.90. Okay, so that's year 1, and we might as well just write year 1 somewhere. Okay, so year 2, we've got that £306.90, and we need to work out the multiplier for 1.8. So I could go through the same method as before, but actually when you start using multipliers you realise how to just go straight there. So it's going to be 1.018. But you could do 100 plus 1.8 is 101.8, and then divide that by 100. And what's that going to be? So that equals came out a bit wrong. So what's that going to be? So 306 and times 1.018. And that says it's £312. And I'm going to round this 42. I'm going to round it to the nearest penny. Okay, so that is Superbank. That's how much we'd get. Now, the Great Bank's a bit easier because it's just going to stay at 2.2. So let's work out as a multiplier. 100% plus 2.2% equals 102.2%. And then as a multiplier, that is 1.022 by dividing it by 100. So we're going to times that £300 by 1.022. So 300 times 1.022, and I get £306.60. Then I'm going to times that again by 1.022. So times 1.022, and this time I get 313.34. Ooh, actually, that would be 5 if I round it to the nearest penny. Okay, so it says which account will give her the most money. Well, looking at that, it's going to be the Superbank. And when you're writing down an answer, make sure you write down the full name Oh, it's not going to be a super bank, it's going to be the Great Bank. Look at that. So Great Bank Inc. And then it says by how much. So I'm going to get that by how much. Let's show the examiner what I'm doing. So I'm going to do 313.35, take away 312.42. So 313.35, take away 312.42. And I get the answer of 93p. So £0.93. Now, if you hadn't have rounded both of those, you might get a slightly different answer. And actually, technically, you shouldn't have rounded them until you got the answer. But on a question like this, where you're rounding it to the actual money she would get, they wouldn't pay her half a penny, then either answer would be correct. And in this bit here, you could have done all of this just as one bit. You could have just written 300 times 1.022 times 1.022 or times 1.022 squared. That would be absolutely fine because you'll get the same answer. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you liked this video, please click like. If you really liked it and want to support this channel, then please click the subscribe button. I can never say that properly. Thank you very much.